Well, welcome to Let Us Reason Together, the Monday edition. We are so glad that you've joined us here at this special time, for sure. Who am I? I am Sandi Craig. I am hosting the show today, but I'm not alone, and I'm going to let you know about that in just a second. I'll tell you a little bit about me. My husband and I co-pastor Life of Worship in Amarillo, Texas, exactly where we're broadcasting from. And we also have a few other shows we do on the network, Walking in Spirit and Truth, which is normally at Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central, the next chapter, and Monday morning War Room at 7:30 a.m. And hey, you should tune into those and all the other shows here on the Messianic Lamb Network because, hey, you're going to be fed spiritually as well as it's going to manifest in your life physically. I can tell you that right now. Anyway, it's a great place to set for your day. I will tell you that. Anyway, this is September 21st, 2020, the third day of Tishri. Can you believe it? Can you believe we're here? That Yom Kippur is on the way and Sukkot's coming really quickly. I'm excited about that. And I'm sure you are too, because we should all be looking forward to the rehearsal of the wedding feast, right? Sukkot. Wow. It's going to be great. Anyway, like I said, I'm not alone. And today we have Mr. Mark David Smith here, the owner, the visionary of the Messianic Lamb Network. And I am so glad that you've joined us. Also, he hosts the Compass of Cram, and you need to join with us. Join with that. He also hosts the Constitution Show, and all of those are shows you need to be watching. Just let me tell you. Welcome, Mark.
Shows you can't be on for whatever reason.
I know, because I have. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me say, Sandi also hosts the Walking in Spirit and Truth show on Tuesday evenings, show I can't be on, so you need to be watching that one. And she also hosts with her husband War Room Prayers on Monday morning, right before this, which I can't be on, so you need to be sure and watch that. And so the other shows, I think you and I do together.
We do together. That's right. Which is always the way I like the show. So,
okay. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say, hey. Now, see, I almost take offense to that one because we were just talking before about me being on here, and I like being on with you, Sandi. You know that we've only done 3,000-4,000 shows together.
I know, but life happens.
What?
But life happens, and sometimes there's adjustments that have to be made.
Well, I'm nowhere near tired of you. That's fact. If we want to make a list of all the different people we've done shows with, or will do shows with, can do shows with, you are on the top of my list of shows.
Well, thank you.
Shows with, so, and we will continue to do this and make it happen to work one way or the other.
However it needs to work. Hey, we just got a message. Bob Hall drove through Amarillo on Shabbat Eve. Man, I wish I would have known. We would have come and met you. That would have been amazing, Bob. Oh, we missed that one. Maybe if you're coming back through this way, let us know. And we would love to meet up. And if we're having a meeting, we would love for you to join us, Mr. Hall. So, and shalom to Karen as well. Shalom to Bob and Karen and whomever else is out there that I don't know your name. We're so glad that you're with us. And just to let you know, there are a few things happening today as celebrations. Yeah. The wacky, weird holidays. This is supposed to be Respect for the Aged Day. So, Mark, I respect you. I'm sorry. I had to do that. I had to just to be funny. Sorry.
Well, my wife, every time something gets twisted wrong or something, she says, well, we're getting old. And it's like, you know what? I don't receive that. I may be at a certain point in my life when things happen or whatever, and I just turned 66. And so, I still just don't want to be old, but hey, well, I would rather recognize what's called human capital. And human capital is based on the experience a person has, the value a person has because of their experience in life. That is what human capital is. So I have very good human capital, I think. So there you go. That's the way I look at myself. I'm not old. I'm just a human capitalist. That's all.
Well, and you're not, but I wanted to be funny, so I had to say that. And I'm not
Yeah.
that far behind. I'm 54, so I'm not that far behind you.
Just a kid. He's just a kid.
You
That's
know.
all.
Well, this has some other celebrations today too. This is the National Dance Day. So I was going to ask you, would you get up and do a jig?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
I know.
I'll get up and do a jig. I'll sit here.
Okay, there you go. We can. That's right. My little granddaughter, she loves to dance and do a so-called jig. But so today, put dance in your day. Yeah, put dance in your day. Somehow, if you're in the middle of the kitchen, the living room, at your job, just get up and do a little movement. There you go. This is also National Chai Day and the International Day of Peace. And so there's a lot of stuff going on with that, but I really don't know those silly holidays. We don't celebrate them, but it's fun sometimes to see how silly people can be. Yeah. Now, this day marks some other things as well. The French National Convention voted to abolish the monarchy in 1792. Britain went off the gold standard in 1931. The Japanese forces began occupying China's northeast territory of Manchuria in 1931. The Hobbit was published in 1937 on this day. And 1949, the People's Republic of China was born this day. And I don't know, Perry Mason. Do you remember Perry Mason, the television series?
Sure.
Well, we may not remember it like firsthand, but it was on, and it made its debut on this day in 1957. And the U.S. Senate confirmed Sandra Day O'Connor as the first female justice on the U.S. Supreme Court on this day in 1981. I remember that. I do remember that.
I was born in 54 and Perry Mason came on in 57. I remember standing up in my crib, holding on to the side of the crib, holding on to the bars of the crib and watching Perry Mason thinking, boy, I sure hope that guy doesn't put me in jail.
Wow. That's pretty cool that you can remember that.
Yeah, I remember that vividly. Perry Mason is like, man, I hope that guy, he's a good lawyer. I just hope never mind.
Wow. Well, that's quite a memory. That's all I can say. Well, I'm going to this could relate to your Constitution show, but on this day, September 21st, 1776, what was said by Nathan Hale? I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country. Because he's captured by the British during the American Revolution. He's accused of spying. As he's being hanged the next day, he made that famous declaration in the midst of losing his life for his country. Also, on this day in 1991, the Dead Sea Scrolls are made public at the Huntington Library in California. So that's something.
Interesting.
And then do you remember Adam? Did you ever watch the reruns or watch Adam 12?
Oh, sure.
I remember my dad having that on. And it debuted on this day in 1968.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you believe it? It's been a while. So anyway, there's a lot more little weird things that are happening on his birthday on this day, but I'm going to ask you this question for some wacky news. Did you know that a study found the filthiest place on an airplane isn't the bathroom, but it's your fold down tray? That's gross. Where you put your food. That's really gross. But your keyboard is 5 times as filthy as the toilet seat on your the keyboard on your computer is more filthy than your toilet.
All right. Well, thank you, Sandy.
And one more. Flip-flops host more than 18,000 bacteria. And now we've learned that billions of microbes are lurking on your shower head in your shower.
Yeah.
In
Well,
fact, researchers looked at 45 shower heads from across the U.S. and found that each shower head was home to at the average of several billion microbes per square centimeter. About half of the particles that come out of your shower head are sufficiently small to penetrate your airways, meaning that each supposedly cleansing breath we take while we're taking a shower is full of foreign microbes. Yeah. But if you're healthy, chances are that grody showerhead won't be your downfall. In fact, very few people have ever died or gotten sick of showerhead microbes
that they know of.
that they know of. That's right.
That they know of. Well, let's see. You don't want to be typing on your keyboard while you're taking a shower, because then you just double things up there as far as now. So if you use like a disinfectant spray on all of that, would that, does it say anything? I'm sure.
I just get headline news. I don't have the.
It's like I'm looking at my keyboard. The keyboard needs to be cleaned real bad. That's fact.
Mine does. I can tell you that right now. Mine does.
Nobody ever cleans their keyboard. So, and my mouse has dust all over it too. But who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? Well, anyway. Well, I'm just going to do one wacky news story. I think that's enough for the day. Personally, we don't need to belabor it. So tell me what's going on with you. What's going on with your shows? What's happening?
Well, thank you very much. This tonight's Compass of Cram, which comes on at 7 p.m. Eastern. There will be 7 of us actually. Daryl and Milena Weinberg join me every week. So they're kind of co-hosting with me. But tonight, Nitsa Moshe will be on. My daughter will be on. And Eddie and Tammy will be there tonight.
Oh, it's going to be a great show.
And let me just tell you straight out, the show will be to die for. Okay, how about that? If that makes you want to come, if the show would.
I always want to come and do the show.
Okay.
Always.
Well, the topic tonight is, and I should have this up. Are there any causes that you would die for? Are there any causes that you get behind, and are there any that you don't recommend anybody get involved with? But I mean, would you literally die for a cause?
Yes.
In other words, if you knew that there was something going on and there was a protest going on, you could be a part of it. Anyway, all that kind of stuff. So,
wow, I'm passionate about stuff, and I would love to be on the show. That would be so great.
Sure.
So
well, you're welcome anytime you can.
Well, you got a full house tonight, so
I do have a full house tonight. You're still welcome to come on. We can always make room. But let's see. That's we were this close to coming to your Sukkot this year. This stinking close, and decided not to. But there's a real good chance we'll be there next year. So
good. Well, just get your skits ready and get ready to talk, because I want you to be a speaker. So just make sure I'll put you to work. So
yeah, I get it. Anyway, so glad to hear that your Yom Teruah celebration went off good.
It was so great. Like I said, we had the Friday evening, Erev Shabbat. We went ahead and we met, and we had an oneg, and we had worship music out in this big barn. And this big barn is amazing. This big barn has an apartment in it. It has this huge front area with tables and swings and chairs. It's all concrete, and it can store probably 10 vehicles. And then it has this swing that the kids were playing on that drops down from like a 24-foot ceiling, and all sorts of activities the kids can do in this barn. This barn is massive. And we've met there for Shavuot as well. And it's somebody from our congregation. And so we met there, and it was a packed house. I mean, it was full, and it was just good to see everybody there. And we were missing a lot of folks too, but then we topped it all off with our tour study at 2 and 2 p.m. Central on every Saturday, actually. But when everybody came and gathered at my house, and my backyard is a postage stamp, and literally pretty much almost. And I told everybody, I said, there's a pool. And I said, I have a big garden. In the garden, we grow vertically because there's no space. So everything, my cantaloupe, my watermelon, everything is up on these big cattle panels. My cucumbers, even my zucchini and squash, I have grow up. Anyway, when people actually walked in the space, I told them to bring chairs. And I said, but you may have to stand because there's no room. People walked out and they said, you weren't lying. I said, I know. So we have everybody crammed into this tiny space. And then they get into the water. And previously, our water stayed between 88 and 92 degrees, which was wonderful. But we had 2 36-degree days. And last week or so. And thus our water, we worked hard and we got it to 80, but it was still, people got in and you could see their face. Their eyes got big, but I was in the water the whole time, and you get used to it. It's fine. But
yeah, sure.
Anyway, we had people crying. We had people just excited and exuberant. We had kids, adults. It was just awesome. And we had old and young. So it was just really good. It wasn't the same as doing it where we usually do in Palo Duro Canyon in the Panhandle of Texas, but it was still great. So,
well, man, well, we should. It's too bad that you guys aren't here. We could do it down in the ocean.
That would be amazing. Well, and we usually have we try to mikvah on feast days. So we will do it again at Palo Duro Lake for our Sukkot this year. Although there's been a lack of water, so we may have to do a little bit of hiking because the lake has receded somewhat.
Really? Okay. Well,
yeah.
Very interesting.
But thank you for asking. It was a great, great, great celebration. And then yesterday, we went to Maxwell's pumpkin farm with my granddaughter, and she got to pet the mule and the llamas and the goats and the sheep. And she got to shoot apples out of a cannon and go down big slides and jump in bouncy houses and ride a tractor and you name it. And she was just happy.
Sure she was.
Oh, and we went through a maze. And it's funny, by that time we went through the maze. John was pulling a little cart because she was done walking. I mean, she's 2. And we put some pumpkins in there that her mama wanted to get. And she looked like a zombie all through the maze. You could tell she was just practically not moving. Anyway, that's my granddaughter's story.
Cool. Yeah. Very cool.
Well, I have a news article. Should we do the news?
Sure. Might as well. If I were ready, it'd be even better. But I can be there in a second.
Well, we're going to talk today about self-censorship. Hey, do you feel censored lately? Do you feel like you have to censor? Well, that's a question that's out there. This article is from Zero Hedge by Tyler Durden. And the survey says we are censoring ourselves because of the political climate of the day, between BLM, Antifa, between the globalist and the radical left that say pretty much if you speak anything of truth, of God, or of anything else, you're going to be persecuted, if not sometimes even killed. That's the society we live in now, which is really sad. Well, here the article says a recent survey of 2,000 Americans by Cato Institute found that 62% of Americans say the political climate these days prevents them from saying things they believe because others might find them offensive. Now, this is up from years past, of course, because look around us. Now, here it is. Listen to the number here. Majorities of Democrats, 52%, independents, 59%, but Republicans, 77% of all Republicans agree that they have political opinions they're afraid to share. So the number of the people on the right, the conservatives, the Republicans are the ones whose voices are most censored, honestly, by themselves and honestly by others too, which is pretty telling, isn't it? Now, you can really see it because those that feel they have to censor the least are those that are globalists, that are on the far radical left. They don't believe they really have to censor themselves at all. Why? Because their speech is acceptable to the political climate. Well, I'm going to go on with the article now. That's personal opinion. People who define themselves as staunch liberals censor themselves less. Strong liberals stand out, however, as the only political group who can feel and express themselves. Nearly 6 in 10, 58% of staunch liberals feel they can say whatever they want. Now, in the truly representative numbers, that's chilling because U.S. normally enshrines the most far-reaching freedom of speech because of our First Amendment. But the average number of Americans who self-censor is slowly beginning to, listen to this, approximate that of Germany, where a survey on self-censorship was conducted a year ago concluded that nearly, this is in Germany now, 2/3 of citizens are convinced today one has to be very careful of what topics one expresses oneself because they are many unwritten laws about opinions which are acceptable and unacceptable. The difference is that Germany is one of the most draconian hate speech laws in Europe. But yet we are succumbing to that very same thing. Hate speech laws, ridiculous, guys. We should celebrate our amendment, our right to free speech. Now, here it goes. The article goes on to say nearly a third, 32% of employed Americans say they're worried about missing out on career opportunities or even losing their job if they express a political opinion. Now, Americans across the political spectrum share the concerns. But again, those who are most affected are those who are conservative, who may call themselves Republicans or who are conservatives. The numbers of liberals at the most are 31%, but you have those that are more on the right, especially postgraduates. Now, it says that those with the higher education feel the most censored, but that's where the 31% of the liberals comes in. 31% of liberals who have a higher education, meaning postgraduate, they think they have to be quiet, but that compares to 44% of postgraduates that are conservative. So there's just a difference in the political spectrum of education as well as political party or political leaning. All I know is, hello, is that telling or have we already felt it? I can tell you I felt that pressure. I still pretty much say what I want, but there have been times where I've held my tongue because you say a buzzword even, and all of a sudden, well, you're racist or a whole bunch of other things. And we've got to understand that racism is in all directions. People focus on those with lighter skin that are racist, but guys, I see great racism from other communities. I'll just leave it at that. Again, here I'm watching the words I'm saying because of the political climate. Anyway, this article goes on to say the tilt has had familiar consequences. The proliferation on campuses of safe spaces, trigger warnings, deplatforming of conservative voices, and a cancel culture aimed at professors and students who do not conform to an on-campus political orthodoxy that has become increasingly totalitarian. An example being in Massachusetts, the University of Massachusetts, Lowell School of Nursing, Leslie Neal Boylan was fired by the school after writing Black Lives Matter, but also everyone's life matters. Well, that's true, but she was fired for saying something true, simple, and good. Yeah, she was fired. That's the climate we live in, folks. Cancel culture has moved from the campus into our society. Some of the topics that aren't acceptable anymore: don't talk about race, don't talk about gender, don't talk about Western civilization, don't talk about true history, don't talk about war heroes, don't talk about climate change, don't talk about, well, you name it. You can't talk about it anymore, according to political society. But when citizens stop voicing their concerns in public places about current events and policies and ideas out of fear that they will lose their livelihoods and social standings, it's a big problem in our society because that means the bullies are the only platform that's ever heard. So here for me, don't silence your voice. Pray that God fills your mouth with your words and puts his protection around you, and be discerning, but we need to use our voices. We don't need to be part of the culture that's been silenced, because when a good man does nothing, then evil prevails. I need to remember that. Hey, Mark, what do you have to say about this?
Bitterness. There's just so much bitterness out there on the side of people that have. It's almost switched. How about, let's put it that way? It's switched from when I was growing up. You could talk about any of those things you want and not be fearful of any of it, because we just had freedom. It was our freedom. And now it seems that those that are bitter towards anything that has happened in their life, or things that are small. I don't know how to explain that in my head, but it's switched over now to they have it. I see what I get what you're saying, and I'm trying to put into words what I'm thinking on, for instance, the bully issue. The a bully, of course, doesn't have the right to say things, but it's almost like when you do say something or have an opinion about something, you're being the bully. And those that are on the other side of that have not stood up for themselves. Let's put it that way. They've not stood up for themselves many, many times. And in a way, I can almost defend some of their feelings, the way that they feel about it, because I've been on that side. I've been on the other side of somebody, when I've been bullied, and I've been on the side of being accused of something and not stood up for myself, and now it almost seems as though when you stand up for yourself, it has gotten so far on to the other side. And it's a lot of it, I think, is bitterness. It's bitterness towards that. The balance, it keeps shifting from one side to the other. And I can only account for my life as 66 years old, and the way I grew up, and what I remember seeing and feeling and understanding when I was growing up towards a lot of different people. And you can go anywhere from the whole range of black people to gay people. I don't know what that was. I said black people, and an alarm went off. So I don't know what happened there, but anyway, you have such a huge range of people that feel as though they have lesser value, and they have been quiet for so long that now they've shifted the ranks to people that have in the past been on top, now have to feel as though they're on the bottom because somebody else wants to be on top and is bitter and mad because of things that have happened in the past. And I mean, like, you can just go to the LGBT, you could go to black people, you go to Asians, you could go to any of categories. And I would almost say, it's so funny, it's either white people or everybody else, and I've thought about this, and it's, you want to talk about liberals and what liberals think that they should say or be about certain different things and standing up. It's liberals have always been they've always voiced themselves more than anybody, especially conservatives. I mean, it's even the words say it, liberal and conservative. The two words will even tell you. Whereas it seems now there's been another shifting. It's rough to put it in words without feeling as though I'm being politically incorrect.
Exactly.
I'm stumbling all over my words here.
But see, that's what we're talking about.
What?
We can't talk freely anymore. Okay, I'll tell you something else. You say homosexuality in a pulpit is a sin, but so is every other outside sex outside of marriage is wrong. Period. All of it, but that includes homosexuality. You're going to be censored. You're going to be politically demonized. You say when here it is. This is the day when evil's called good and good is called evil. Of
course, yeah.
And these are the days we're living in. And so if you stand up for righteousness, you are being censored. We are being censored. And you have to, I get a fire under my belly when, and sometimes I get to my own, I get this fire and I'm like, it's truth. And I choose to go forward despite the consequences. And, and
sure.
Saying the truth, even in your own congregation, sometimes you feel like you are standing on slippery slope. I'll tell you another topic. This is a topic where you can be censored very easily and feel like you're on the same ground. And it's not political and it's not in these areas, but just amongst our own groups, because people want to hear what they want to hear and they don't want to hear anything else. And usually you don't want to hear because you want to continue to live your life the way you want to, and you don't want to be confronted with the truth of scriptures. Here's another topic that is censored, but this is in our own community, and that's on tithes and offerings. Let me tell you, I've been doing a series on that. First time. We've had our congregation since 2005, September of 2005. It's the first time I've ever done a series on it. And when I was starting it, I was like, okay, guys, you want to know why? Because people literally walk out when you touch. It's the same sort of concept, but that's in a minuscule level. And now the political things and the truth things, abortion and choice and race and all of it, it's so politically hot that you do. Anytime you even just say the word amongst even your own group of people, you're like, where have we fallen? Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be that way.
Well, yeah, I that's so funny. I'm stumbling all over my words again here. On my show, Compass of Cram, I pick topics that bring this stuff out.
I know.
And that's the reason, because nobody else will talk about it. The very first show I did when we switched over to evenings or mornings, very first topic was all men are created equal. Okay. Is that true? All men created equal? And and last week we did, I should bring this up because once again, these topics are topics that nobody will talk about. Profiling people. That was a huge topic that I did. Last week we did plausible deniability. And it's incredible because I think about, that's one of the things that I think about quite often. But ever since, even right after I did the show last week on Monday, I went in and, I've been on the computer a lot that day. So I went in to sit down and watch an old cop show. And this chief of police is talking to one of his head police sergeants or whatever, and the sergeant tried to tell him what was going on, and he said, "Stop, I don't want to know." Plausible deniability. It's the same thing. These are topics that people don't want to talk about because it's switched. It's now people are scared to death to do anything. I mean, with COVID, it just sent another layer on top of being scared to death to even live your stinking life. It's everything, and it's coming up. Remember what we did 2 years ago on the HR5. That HR5 bill is still sitting there, but just mark my words. I said this when we did that HR5 conference, is that they will not pass the bill, but they'll start picking little bits out of because it had several topics, and now they have literally passed several little laws that will take different things out of there, that you can't do this, you can't say this, you can't do this in this instance, and workforce can't do this and stuff. It was all in that HR5. The HR5 is still just sitting dormant, but all these little things, and it's just scare tactics. And what is the number one thing? Hitler did it. It's one of those things so that they can be in control. Whoever is causing this to happen they want to be, this is the number one thing, to put a person into control. And that's what bullies do, is They start little and they actually start really nice. Well, hey, how you doing? And it's, they manipulate. They're very good at manipulating, and that's what's is happening to us, and it won't stop. It'll just do nothing but layer upon layer.
But it's like you said, that's what this COVID thing is about, is how much control they place over 100%, our lives. 100%. And again, here we go, the censorship. I know that people do suffer from this just like they do the flu and everything, but it has a 99.9999 whatever survival rate. It's not, it's a thing, guys. It's don't fear. But even believers are walking around in fear, and the other ones are scared to do what they believe. There's a lot of people that believe masks shouldn't even be worn. And you see them, they say, well, I just don't want the hassle. Well, of course, John and I, we will not wear a mask anywhere we go, period. If we get called on it, we just leave. We will not do it. And, but other people we talk to, well, I believe the same thing, but I'm worried, the political hassle, the whatever, so they comply. And, but it's because I did not think it would be this much. Literally, the political atmosphere is controlling almost every area of our lives right now. And most, at least in the United States, most of the United States, believers and unbelievers alike, are saying, yes, Master, what else do you want me to do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's sad.
Very true. Very, very, very true. Very true.
Very true. And it's very, very sad.
And this is a subject that you can go 1,000 different ways on and still cover, everything that you can't cover in 15 minutes or whatever. But
exactly.
It's a continuing series of events that are happening. I don't see it slacking even for a while. So.
No, me either. It's just unfortunate. And
it really is. I agree.
Well, I think we're ready for Torah Portion.
Okay.
Let's jump there.
I'm always ready for the Torah Portion. All right, here we go. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah.
All right, here we are in Hezino in our Torah portion this week, and it's the last chapter of Deuteronomy. It's Deuteronomy, and I'm going to focus on actually, I'm thinking about doing two things, but we're going to start with Deuteronomy 33:5, where it says, and there was a king in Jeshurun. Now, Jeshurun, what's that? Well, it's another word for Jerusalem. And let's just think about this. A king. well, there's a king in Jerusalem. Some say maybe that was Moses, and maybe from a narrative perspective, you could say that, but not really. Anyway, others say, well, it's Yahweh, because after all, Yahweh is the king over Israel, which that's true. He is Yah. But there's something else we could look at that's pretty interesting, and it's actually going to go along with Mark's show, which is on Wednesday mornings, which is the Constitution show, and you want to watch that. So let's see how it relates. And anyway, it says that when we look at Yehuda Halevi's answer, he says the king is Torah itself. Wow. The king being the word itself, King Torah. But that's pretty incredible. And if we believe in Yeshua as king, that makes pretty much sense, because he is the word made flesh and he is king. So those go hand in hand, right? But let's keep looking at that. So now, where does he get this idea that the Torah is the king? Well, he goes on to say, Moses commanded us a Torah, which was the inheritance of the community of Jacob. And there was a king in Jeshurun. So it's like he commanded the Torah, and then there was a king, because that's what's preceding this verse. He commands a king, there's the Torah. The Torah is king. The Torah is there, and now there's a king. So it may seem weird, but there's some interesting facts that you can sort of put together with this to make this make sense, because the idea that the Torah is the king of Israel is pretty profound. It's the idea that we hear sometimes in this country. Let's look at what John Adams said. John Adams' phrase in the Massachusetts Constitution says, America is a government of laws and not of men. America is a government of laws and not of men. The implication is that they don't want one person ruling over us. They want people being governed and following the same laws, equal to everyone. There's something wrong with human power over others, is sort of what this is saying. Real justice is when we're all subjects to the same principles, to the same laws. Okay. Now, Thomas Paine, in his pamphlet Common Sense, also sort of plays into this, because he said, in America, the law is king. For as in absolute governments, the king is law. So in free countries, the law ought to be the king, and there ought to be no other. So now this is making a little bit more sense when we think of, hey, the Torah is king in itself. And then again, for us that believe in Yeshua is king, and he is the Torah made flesh. So that makes a lot of sense. So we're relating it to even how the idea of the founding principles of this country, that the law itself should be king and not a man that's lording over the people, that can dispense justice unequally amongst the people. So this idea that God is the king of Israel on some level, especially right now when the king is crowned at Rosh Hashanah, maybe we can look at it because Yeshua is the king and he is the Torah. But here on earth, the whole notion of a human being being king can bring forth problems. So there's something incredible about the idea that was presented thousands of years before Thomas Paine. He would write about it, that the law is king, that the Torah might be saying the same thing. No person, but the law itself is what governs us. And isn't that what we would truly find successful, if we would be a country in the United States that will return to the Torah and let the Torah be king over our individual lives and our lives as a society? Wouldn't we see a turnaround? So the Torah is king, Yeshua is king. I would say yes and yes to that. And that's one of the areas. I don't know if we want to go beyond that. Do you want me to do a second, Mark, or do you want to?
Keep going. Yeah, keep doing
Okay.
it.
All right. Okay. Here's the next thing I wanted to talk about. And it is, let me get you the verse. I want us to look at Deuteronomy 32, 48 through 50. All right. And it says, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe on that very day, ascend the heights of Evarim to Mount Nebo, and you shall die on that mountain and be gathered to your people. Now, when you look at that phrase, on that very day, it seems unique. Why are you saying that, on that very day? But we look at that phrase because it's trying to say something. And when you study out scripture. Sometimes you go back, where can we find these words before, and how do they relate to this verse itself? And when you look at that phrasing, on that very day, we find it regarding Noah in Genesis 7:13. Basically, it says, on that very day Noah entered. Now, why did they have to say it? It's because Noah's contemporary said, we swear by such and such, we swear by so and so, and if we notice you about to enter the ark, we're not gonna allow it to happen. We're gonna take our axes and our hatchets and we're gonna tear it down so you can't go into the ark. So we have this on this very day, sort of coming at a time where there's a potential moment where there could be crisis, where there could be an uprising of people to try to prevent something. So does that happen in the next mention of on this very day? Well, yeah, actually it does. So when we look at Exodus 12:51, it says, on that very day, Yahweh brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. So here again, we have this idea that there may be someone might try to prevent the children of Israel from leaving Egypt. So the Egyptians might say, we swear by our gods, or whomever they might be, that if those people of Israel try to leave, we're going to stop them. And not only that, but we're going to get our weapons and we're going to stop them from leaving. So basically, Yah says, you think that? You think your plans are going to trump mine? On this very day, I will show you my hand. Now, again, that's not a quote from scripture, but it's like this idea in both instances. I will show society that no matter what their plans and purposes are, on this very day, I will fulfill my plans and purposes. Okay, so we have two examples of on this very day, but there's also a third. Both the two that I've just mentioned sort of look at this conflict that could potentially happen when another event happens. And God puts his hand down and says, no, it's my way. All right. Your plans come to naught. But the next time is a little bit opposite of this. And it is when Isaac's going up and being laid on the altar. Let me get there on my notes, because it talks about on this very day that he's going to be placed there. And that, in a way, you think, well, maybe that makes more sense since we're talking about Noah dying. But does it? Because let's think about it just a minute. The rabbis imagine in the previous instances that on this very day is literally a direct response to something happening. In the previous context, maybe there's a group of militants, there's some threat to stopping God from doing what he wants to do. And so that's the context they read that in. But when we go forward and we say on this very day that Moses is going to pass away, it almost gives you this impression that the people out there, when you compare it to the other circumstances, the people out there are like, we have been with this guy since the beginning. He's sort of like the one he is the one that's leading us. The last time we tried to do it without him, we made a golden calf, and we need him. We can't let him leave. We can't let him leave no matter what your plans are, God, Yahweh. We can't let Moses go because he's our father. He's the one that leads us. And so we have this statement on this very day. It's very different than when Abraham took Isaac, because on that very day was a different sort of context. But here with this statement, on this very day, it sort of puts into context the thoughts and the thoughts of the people on that very day. What's going to happen in this moment of leadership transition? Who will take this over? Who's going to lead us? How are we going to make it without him? And maybe there was the thought of the people trying to literally say, no, don't leave, Father, don't let him leave on this very day. But God always wins in the end. God, of course, his plans and purposes will be fulfilled no matter what we try to do to stop them. And he may have to say in our lives, on this very day, this will happen. I don't know. That's why we trust in him, because even if our future is uncertain, he knows the right way. He knows what's supposed to happen. So in all these instances is on this very day, well, it's not that many, but Maybe we need to look at that. When we read this, we need to remember, especially about leaving Egypt and the ark, when we read the statement on this very day. Anyway, that's what I got.
Sorry, hit the wrong button there. On this very day should be the first thing that we say when we get up in the morning. Let's just think about on this day. So I get up and I say, on this day, I'm going to serve the king, and everything should be on this day. We're not given tomorrow, and the other days are all gone. We are a product of all the other days. So on this very day, we are who we are. We are that person, and we've built ourselves to this point. That's what I see on this very day, or on this day. I like your point. Good. As far as the law is king, I think that's really good. I hadn't thought of it like that. You always do that to me. I looked up, for one thing, the word king, of course, means a male ruler, monarchy over, a country or whatever. I mean, that's even the definition of it. But it's what makes that word, or makes a king, is what is the key issue there to me. So if you make the statement that the Torah law is king, to me, I went and looked up the definition, and looking at a couple of things. One of the things it says the chief authority over. So looking at reapplying the law of God being the chief authority over, is the same thing as a king. The king has the authority over everything. What the king says is the last word. What the king wants to happen is what is going to happen. That type of thing. So you start looking at who a king is, what's behind that king that makes a king, and what is people understand when they understand what a king is, and you switch that over to the law, it works the same way. It's the chief authority over. It is what the law says is the law. It's what goes. It's how it is. Of course, you can go against the king too, and there are repercussions. You can go against the law, and there are repercussions. So very interesting. A good concept. It's good. It actually plays right into the Brit Hadashah.
Well, that's perfect.
It'd be the first time, right?
No, never.
All right, Brit Hadashah, John 6:26-35. Real interesting. This whole discourse really kind of just plays right into that. Yeshua said, "Truly, truly, I say to you, or you are seeking me, not because you saw signs, but because you ate your fill of the loaves. Do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give to you. For on him God the Father has set his seal." Then they said to him, What must we do to be doing the works of God? Yeshua said, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent." So they said to him, "Then what sign do you do that we may see and believe you? What work do you perform? Our fathers ate man in the wilderness. It is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat." Then Yeshua said to them, Truly I say to you, it's not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he, the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. They said, Sir, give us this bread always. You should have said, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall not thirst. So to me, what he is telling them right from the beginning, he says, you are seeking me not because you saw signs, but because you ate your fill of the loaves. It boils down to literally they were satisfied. They got their sustenance. They were supplied what they needed, and everything all the way through that says exactly the same thing. It's like, the food endures to eternal life. They're asking, what must we do? And Yeshua said, the work that God, this is the work of God, that you believe in him who he sent. That is their life. That's what they get. That is their sustenance. Everything about this, the bread to eat, it's not literally the bread. It's kind of like what we're talking about with the king and what makes a king. It's not the bread itself. It is what's in the bread. It is the sustenance that you get from eating the bread. The bread keeps you alive. It is your everything that has to do with, keeping you going. And it's the same thing with Yeshua says, I am the bread of life. See, it's not me. It's not my physical body. It's not me. It's what's behind me. It's what makes me that gives you life. It's what makes me that gives the sustenance there. And so it's not like from the very beginning, it's you're seeking me not because you saw signs, but because you were filled with the loaves. You got your sustenance. You got your life from that. And in the same way, we get our life from Yeshua. And it's the same thing. It's not the king. It's what's behind the king, because the king, a physical king, is exactly the same makeup of everybody else. He's just a man. But what makes him king is what makes a king. It's what is behind that. In the same thing with Yeshua. It's not Yeshua the body. It's not Yeshua that's in the words in your Bible. It's what's behind Yeshua. It is God. It is what makes up the kingdom that we go for. That's what gives us sustenance, is everything that makes up Yeshua and the Messiah. That's the way I say it.
That's really good. And here's everything that makes up Yeshua Messiah. That's supposed to be reflected in us. That's supposed to be.
If that is our sustenance, if that is what gives us our life, then yes, it should be.
But then I think about that concept. If that's what gives us our life, that is what it should be. But when you look at the terminology of human, of male and female, and I've done a show on this. I should pull up my notes, but that's a whole show. According to Torah, you are not human unless you follow Torah. You're a beast. And I break that down into the Hebrew and all of that. And it's very, very interesting. And so what drives us as people, what drives us, if we believe in the Torah, if we believe in Yeshua, should we should be a reflection of that very king and his kingdom, because we are the parts that make up the kingdom. But if we're the beast, then we are going to, wow, then we're going to look like a society read by the whims of passion and not logical, by the flesh. And that's really what we have. We have one kingdom and the other kingdom. And that goes back to the other part, the censorship and everything that we've talked about, because the two are becoming so separated from each other, one lifestyle versus the other lifestyle. And are we going to, is what's going to make up this king going to be, and this kingdom, which is supposed to be us, we're parts of that kingdom. He's the, he is the vine, we are the branches, he is the tree, we are the, are we going to be that reflection? Are we going to look like the rest of the world? And I think about what the world looks like right now. It's ugly and it's dark, and it is contrary to everything God's kingdom sets, because honestly, the way they've set it up, man becomes their own king.
Sure.
And that's humanism in and of itself. You are your own God. You are your own determiner. You are the one that determines right and wrong for the good of society from your own thoughts and passions. And that's really the beast. And it's part of that beast system. So that's very, very, very interesting, because
it's all in who you respect. If you respect the king, then you respect what's behind the king. If you respect
Absolutely.
the Messiah, you respect what's behind them, and that respect draws it to you. But it makes it you.
Exactly. That's really, really good. And it actually brings, you put the cherry on top to bring the whole show together, about the king being Torah, about the law, about censorship, and how there's the two kingdoms clashing. It sort of all comes together in this picture with what you just said. So it's really good. It brings everything together. I love it.
And what you said.
Yeah. Unplanned as always, but it always comes together. That's for sure.
Sure.
Oh, well, that is pretty much what I have for the show today.
Me too. Na 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 na, hey hey hey, goodbye. Na 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 na, na 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 na,
hey hey hey.
Goodbye.
Well, we just got serenaded by our leader. That's pretty cool, right?
Still going through my head. So
now
how do they do? I don't have little dots, but let's go. Na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye.
There you go.
Yeah. I could have put the whole song in there, but I don't think it would.
That'd be a long name. Well, folks, we're gonna say thank you for joining us this day. Thank you for taking the time out. And Bob, it's been great having you. We're there with you. That's what I can say. So until next time, this is Sandi.
And this is Mark.
No, this is na. Hey, hey, hey.
Yeah, that's whatever you call me. I'm fine. All
anyway.
Right. See y'all next week.
Yes,
and then we'll be gone for 2 weeks for Sukkot, and then back, right, Sandi?
Yes.
We will be here next week. All right. Ta-ta.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.